right, guys, let's get rocking and rolling here. We're here, and I'm going to hopefully share some secrets to doubling your revenue without working more hours. Now, out of curiosity, is anybody here interested in doubling their revenue without working more hours? It almost seems too good to be true, doesn't it? All right, it almost seems too good to be true. But it's sadly much easier than people recognize. And I want to go through a couple things to get a little bit more clear. The first thing that I always look at when working with anybody, all right, is what is exactly they're good at. And a lot of times I hear this same consistent problem is that they have this myth or this idea in their head that adding more services means more income. So again, I can't tell you how many times I've had the conversation where somebody is an extremely good, I'll use a cabinet maker for an example, right? But all of a sudden they want to be a general contractor as well. And they also want to be a window washer and three other different things. And I always step back and I think of my own personal situation where I made this exact mistake and just how much time and energy it cost me. And this isn't just for single trade, this is for general contractors. Okay. We got to get over this myth that offering more services means more income. It does not. All right. Offering more services means it definitely doesn't mean more money. And it really actually means that you're spreading yourself thin and actually adding more variables to your business. All right. Now, again, I don't know about you guys, but like running a business just at the basic level, that's hard. All right. It's difficult. All right. So why are we consistently adding things to trip over? All right. So what's the real cost of overexpansion? All right. What's the real cost when you really boil this down? And it's, too many services actually dilute your brand, right? You have a much higher overhead. You're carrying an extra overhead. And this is probably the biggest mistake that I see guys make is that they are doing one thing that's making all the profit while trying to do another thing that's actually sucking away the profit at the same time. All right. And again, I can see this in roofing. I see this in plumbing. I see this in electrical. I see it in everything across the board. I see it with general contractors. And it's almost like they don't accept the one thing they're really good at is enough. And that's really where you start to hit these major problems and these major roadblocks. And ultimately, the first place we see it is really the quality control drops. The owners sucked into the business a lot more. They're being pulled all different angles. And I hear it over again. Well, I'm the only one that can. I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only one that can sort this problem out. And again, I have to privately, of course, roll my eyes because it's not like I don't see it every single day. And I have to explain to another owner why exactly they're facing these challenges. And it amazes me that they'll accept me saying, hey, you got to jump over the moon to make it to the next level, but they will not accept me cutting away their services. This is probably one of the hardest fights that I have with them. And it's always astounding that here we are doing heart surgery on your business, but you're fighting me tooth and nail on whether you should drop the unprofitable work. So let's talk about how we refocus for the results. All right. And again, I know how difficult this is, especially if you work very hard to add a service, right? And a lot of times it's because your customers are asking for it and it's there, right? It seems easy. All right. But what we need to do is get back to our numbers, as you know that I preach if you've been here for a while. All right. We have to really understand margins as it applies to service. Okay. We want to identify the highest margin, lowest headache services. And guys, if you're not tracking your numbers, all right, I promise you will be shocked. I promise you will step back and go, I didn't realize that. I can't tell you. It would be in the thousands how many times I've done this exercise and had owners just completely blown away by it. It was the thing that, you know, was obviously right in front of them that they just weren't focusing on. One is actually a roofer that we just recently had a conversation with that was doing insurance re-roofing and also trying to be a flat roofer. All right. Now, if you know anything about roofing, that those two are not the same. Okay. And he was in fact losing $25,000 a month trying to be a flat roofer on average when we added up all of his costs and everything else. On the other hand, he was in the top 20% EBITDA on his shingle roofing. So like the answer was clearly in front of him, but for whatever reason, fought me tooth and nail. We had to argue up and down. And it was only when we actually pulled the numbers out and had to basically go through them tooth and nail to show them. And you can't give me any yeah buts. Yeah, but it's going to get better. Yeah, but all this other stuff. No, that's not the way business works. You can't afford, most companies can't afford, all right, to keep a losing service. All right. We have to get that out of our head that it's going to get better, it's going to improve, it's going to be this or it's going to be that. That is a very poor way to go about this. All right. And honestly, the best way that I'm able to do it is a compromise, right? So I'm going to use the exact situation with him. He was extremely against me on this discussion. So I tell you what, how about we drop it for 30 days? Let's just drop it for 30 days. We're not going to take on or do any more flat roofs. And he was subcontracting these, by the way. So we're not going to do any more flat roofs. We're going to hold off for 30 days. Oh, no, I can't do that. But I'm like, okay, like we got to agree somewhere here. And we agreed, okay, we're gonna stop it for 30 days and we're gonna measure the impact. Where do you think the impact would show up if you had a losing service? Where do you think the first noticeable impact would be? Anybody?
Bank account. Account.
That's a lagging indicator, but think like an owner, right? You've cut this cancer out of your business that you didn't even know. You actually thought it was your best friend and you're
Level,
almighty. What's that?
stress level.
Ah, there we go. Where do you think the first indicator shows up? It's yourself, right? His time. That's the very first thing. Oh my God, like I have time. I'm not running around. All right. Then came the panic. Oh my God, I have time. So I must not be busy. I must not be making money because I have time. How many of you guys have said that before? How many of you guys have had that in your head before? All right. And again, lo and behold, all right, by the time we get our lagging indicators in, bank account, balance sheets, profit and loss, okay, he's actually up. He's actually doing what he should be doing. All right. And the lesson here was, had he just stayed on that and looked at his numbers and not allowed his emotions and his ego and his pride to get in the way of business decisions, all right, he wouldn't have been stuck for so long. And again, this was something he had been doing for years, right? Not a couple of months, years, trying to get flat roofing to be a core service for him. And it wasn't even carrying overhead, right? 2 out of 3 contractors specializations improved their reputations. Okay. So again, how easy do you think it is to market a jack of all trades? How easy do you think that is to market? Okay.
Not easy.
All right. And then let's just put it into perspective here. And then again, I'm always reminded of the old van with like lettered to the tits with every type of service that they can do. We do everything. I'm always reminded of that when we have this conversation. And you got to step back and think, what kind of owner or what kind of client are you attracting? Right? What kind of person? Do you think that high-end, well-paying clients want to hire the roofer that can also do his landscaping, clean his windows, and wash his car? No, they want a specialist, right? They want somebody that's experienced. And then also from the business side, right? When we start to reduce variables, okay? And I can give you a very personal story in my own business. This is going back almost a decade now, but we were doing relatively well. We were maintaining a 30% margin, which is the standard for most companies. That was a net profit, not a gross. So again, on paper, we're doing really well. Finally got money in the bank account. We're doing 5, 6, 8 million bucks. And I knew that I had a problem. All right. And here was my problem is that I was the guy doing flat roofing. All right. We had a commercial division. We had residential shingles. We just started doing metal roofs at that point, like full time. We'd always done commercial metal roofs. We've done that for about 20 years and was our actual core offer originally. All right. But we'd moved into the residential market. And, on paper, everyone's like, your business is doing great. The banks are loving me. Everything's good. But I knew there was a big problem. And the problem was my time. I was still working 70 to 80 hours a week, and all I was doing was putting out fires. All I was doing was doing things that I really hated doing. And truth be told, all right, I really got sick of dealing with residential shingle roofers. That was my biggest pet peeve. I didn't want to talk to another shingler in my entire life, right? They didn't show up. They were the guys that just didn't give a shit at the time. No matter what we did, no matter how we onboarded, like it was just, we consistently had a problem with the people themselves. They didn't care about the job. right? It was just a job. It was never anything more important to them. On the other hand, we had some flat roofers. We had our metal roofers who took the highest pride, all right? And then the most deciding factor, I hated the customers that wanted a $10,000 roof. I couldn't stand them, all right? They're the ones that gave me more headaches than the guys buying $100,000 roofs, $200,000 roofs, right? So I had to deal with this problem. And the problem was my time. All right. And at that point, I was getting selfish with my time. All right. I was deciding, hey, you know what? I could keep doing this. All right. But I'm not enjoying my experience and it's not sustainable. All right. Eventually, I'm going to burn out from this because every day I dread dealing with these issues. All right. So I made the hardest decision in my entire business. All right. The hardest decision, and people thought I was nuts. Again, I had employees quit. Like it was rough for a little while. But I cut all of our residential department completely down to just metal roofing. We focused on flat roofs as a service in commercial. All right. And we did aluminum and service. That's it. To this day, that's all we do. We went from 11 services to 4. Okay. My revenue dropped. I think the following year we did about 3.5, 4 million bucks. All right. Which again, most people would be pretty happy with, but that was half my revenue. And profits obviously didn't follow as quickly. All right. But I'm happy to report within 2 years, we had already made back that revenue plus, and I was way more profitable. And the most important thing that I want you to think about, all right, was I was finally free of the business, meaning I could leave for a week, 2 weeks, take a month vacation. All right. And the house wouldn't burn down. I could come back to a business. All right. So again, it was one of the most important decisions that I made and one of the hardest. Okay. Because what we don't realize is how emotionally attached we get to certain things in our business and what we think our identity's tied to. All right. Again, it's a silly thing, but we have all this business. And to anybody else, they would say I'm crazy. Why are you just giving away? Like, why are you just cutting this whole part of your business out that's clearly doing well? And my reasons are, right? Look how much time it takes for me. Look how much variables there are to it. It was difficult to market. It was difficult to be the best at it. And really, that was the thing. That was the thing that was taking away my energy. It was that when you're doing all those things, right, you're diluted, right? I'm diluted, my team's diluted, all right? And it's impossible to be the best at all of those things. Impossible. There's always going to be someone bigger, better, stronger, right? So I didn't want that. I want to be really good at the things that I love doing and the things I know I'm good at and the things that I like to market. All right. Shingles wasn't one of them. They had to go. Right. So let's talk about how you guys can make some of these decisions. Now, out of curiosity, anybody that's on this call, feel free to unmute yourself, but or throw it in the chat for me. But like, how many of you guys, are probably doing too many services, offering too many things? How many of you guys right off the top think that maybe they have too many services? Let's open that chat. 1 sec. Anybody experiencing this? Yeah. Okay. General
I do.
contractors. Here's another one. When you are become a small general contractor, a lot of the work that you do is in-house, right? Meaning your own guys are doing it. And this is where I see general contractors really struggle when they're going from that 500,000 to 1.2 million as they stay stuck on the hourly employees. And again, they might have a painting crew, they might have some drywallers, they might have basically some jack of all trades in their business, and it absolutely guts you when you want to grow. Okay. The reason why is because those employees become so inefficient that you lose so much money. All right. And then you're focusing on the wrong work. You're taking small jobs, all right, to keep your guys busy. When really we should be looking at the larger jobs if it makes sense for your business model. Not all, it doesn't always make sense. All right. But if we had taken the larger jobs and worked better with subcontractors, we would have doubled our revenue. And I see this every single day. I get to be the one that argues, and I like to plant seeds early and say what's going to happen next. And I'm usually rewarded with I told you. All right. But everyone that fights me on this, all right, generally ends up finding out the hard way, right? Especially those generals, because again, they're connecting their success to having guys or having the ability to do these small jobs that nobody else wants. Why do you think nobody else wants them? Right? Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're so hard to find good guys to work in those kind of jobs? And I'll tell you why, right? It's because if you're a business, that presents a lot of risk. It presents a lot of risk and hard work and variables for not a lot of revenue or profit. Right now, I have seen there are some exceptions. There are some general contractors that do this very well, but again, they're niching down. They know where their margins should be. All right, they're almost at the handyman level. They're doing jobs 5, 10, 15,000. It's possible, but again, most guys that are in the general contracting space that are trying to do that model, it's like driving with your brakes on. All right, because by the time you're trying to make a profit off these jobs, you've already lost in your overhead. Right? You've already accumulated too much damage to make it worthwhile. All right. But we keep repeating the same mistake and then wondering why we're broke. Right. So the quick win here is we can audit our current service list. All right. Circle the top 2 money makers. Okay. Again, this is done really well when you separate your divisions and separate those incomes. Anybody that is operating should have separate line items in their balance sheets. All right. So that you can see income expenses. Right. How much did this division, this service make? And what was my bottom line cost? That gives you your gross profit on it. Okay. All right. And then simple things, we can update our website that just highlights that specialty, or update our ads that just highlights that specialty, and try and focus on the 2 things that make you the most money. Okay. And watch what happens. Again, we could have had a minor marketing problem that we're trying to fulfill by just selling more to a customer, which, in reality, if you're not good at it, it doesn't work out. All right. If that's not your strong suit. All right. And again, I can think of one right off the top of my head. I have a framing contractor, all right, that decided to do finish carpentry, to add that as a service. Didn't work out well. Did not work out well. All right. So again, how many of you guys are in the same boat? How many of you guys have had this same kind of recent experience? So let's focus on scaling. Let's focus on being able to sell more, all right, and have less involvement in our field, less involvement and cutting variables out of our business, all right? A really good saying that I like to always bring up when I'm having this discussion is simple scales, complicated fails. The more complicated you make your business, the more complicated it becomes to market, the more complicated it becomes to manage, to have accounting, to have clean numbers. Everything becomes more complicated. And I will say the majority of contractors I speak with would do better with a simpler business. All right, a simpler model. So I want to give you a really fun example of this. Joe's HVAC dropped service repair and just focus on ductless installs. Revenue grew 46.6% in 6 months. All right. And fewer callbacks. Drop the customers. Now, again, I would normally say to my HVAC friends that love service, that's great. There are great companies out there that do awesome service, and there's a ton of money to be made. All right. But if that's not what you're actually good at, if that's not what you're actually set up for, all right, and there's something that's much easier that's making you money, then follow the money. All right. Follow the path of least resistance. But I think a lot of times we're afraid to go give those things up out of scarcity. We're afraid to be short of work, or we're afraid of, and the reality is, hey, the world is dying for specialists. We don't need any more generalists. Okay. When I go out and I look for a service, all right, or if I go out and I look at buying something, all right, I want a specialist that's going to solve my specific problem and knows my specific problem inside and out. I want to know that I can trust this company to do a great job. I don't want to guess at it. All right. And if you're putting too many things in front of me that you can do, I'm already not sure if you're the right guy, because I want a specialist. And again, as you deal with higher value customers, you will see this more and more often. All right. So another great example is somebody that's building a house. Okay. Do you think that they wake up one morning and go, I'm going to build a house? You know what? I'm going to call a general contractor. Do you think anybody does that? What do they do first? What do they have to do?
They look for the right home builder.
No, if you're building a custom house, I should have been a little more clear. So if you're building a custom house, you're going to call an architect. You're going to call a designer, right? In most cases, nobody's building them out without a set of plans. Now, maybe there's a design build firm that they might contact, but the idea here is that you're going to go with the natural next step, and that's to get a designer. That's to get an architect involved. All right. And I think a lot of contractors, they try to skew this line. They try to, they try to take their businesses and they miss these huge opportunities where they could grow in their revenue while reducing their headaches. So the danger of overexpansion, general contractors, again, I was using this example, it was actually added finished carpentry and painting, landscaping in-house, right? So they mean that they brought staff in and basically tried to run 3 divisions of their company under their general contracting firm. All right. This didn't work out well. That's hence why they're coming to see me and I'm working with them. It's usually not because everything is just going beyond belief. It's usually because we have a problem, right? I wish I could find customers that were just blowing it out of the water, but that's usually not when they need a consultant, right? So these guys came to me, we worked with them for a while, and we very quickly realized, hey, a couple of months back when you added another in-house landscaping crew and a painting crew and a carpentry crew, congratulations, you're actually working at a 50% efficiency rate. That means for every dollar they were billing, all right, they were paying $1.50. Not hard to see where the money went there, is it? All right. But between all the hours and everything else that they were doing, and not to mention that they increased the amount of callbacks, they lost major customers because of it. Everyone just thinks, hey, I'll just hire a bunch of guys. That's not how it works. All right. Again, there are definitely times when you're in-house staff and when you've had time to train them and lock them in where you can be very good in that space. All right. But if you're a general contractor, all right, that's looking to grow, go look at the top 10% of contractors out there right now. And I promise you, they have fewer than little in-house staff for a reason. All right. Is that it's just too hard to manage. Okay. You can't be everything to everyone. All right. And all it took was us just looking at the number of hours that they budgeted for and the number of hours the job actually came out to be, and then comparing to that to what the subcontractors were charging before they replaced them. Voila. 3 divisions had to be completely stripped. 14 employees had to be let go. All right. Just like that. Okay. So again, my point here that I'm trying to make is that we can make these mistakes so easily and we can get so caught up in trying to serve our customer and being everything to them and grabbing extra revenue that we actually drop in revenue. We actually drop in profit, right? We increase our headaches. We put our hand out, forgive me for saying it, but like most of you, if I told you it was too hot, don't touch it. What are you going to do?
That's it.
You're going to touch it, right? So for the sake of the group in the room and just understanding, don't go ahead and do this, guys. Go ahead. Start another division. Add all these things in. You will see, right? It'll be great, right? Profits will grow. All right. You'll be on a yacht out in the Bahamas in no time. Just try this. I don't really mean that. I'm being sarcastic. Okay. So what services could you stop offering today? And again, this is I find that contractors get very emotional about this for some reason. There's a lot of attachment to it. Okay. And again, I want you to really think about your identity shouldn't be tied to your business or the services it offers. Okay. And in fact, when you get to a certain level, you stopped even identifying as a contractor. All right. The guys that have really excelled well, and I've certainly had that moment of growth where, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not even a contractor, right? No, not even a roofing contractor. I'm a sales and marketing company that happens to do roofing, right? Or happens to be a general contractor, but sales and marketing became more of a priority for me because that's how you grow business. And I know that's a hard shift, all right? But a lot of it on the management of what you're selling, all right? The answers are right in front of you. If you're struggling to sell your service right now, if you're struggling for people to be interested in what you have to offer, okay, you really ought to look at the offer. Would you not agree? All right. And get away from maybe offering random services. Okay. Because that's not an offer. Okay. So I'm going to try and add a little bit of clarity to what I just said. All right. The businesses that grow and scale, all right, and that do the best, they have a core offer. All right. I just got to mute a few people here. They have a core offer. All right. And a core offer does a couple things. It solves a specific problem for a specific person, a specific way. Okay. That's all that an offer is. Specific problem solved a specific way for a specific, okay, we get that? So when we think of it, if you're going out and just offering your services in random, all right, I do HVAC, great. What is there to compare to? The other HVAC company that offers HVAC? Do you see where I'm going with this? All right. So it's more important that we actually focus in on the core offer that we can do profitably. All right. For us, we offer custom installed metal roofing systems. Okay. We only work with high-end clients. In our definition of a high-end client, they live in specific communities. They drive high-end cars. They wear name brand clothes. They're between 45 and 65. All right. And typically, again, they want a forever roof. Okay. They don't want to replace a roof again. They have capital, they have cash. All right. But I sell to that same avatar over and over again because I know what their core problems are. I know what their fears are. I know what they want and what they don't want. All right. And I've adjusted my offer to be exactly to that, solving that problem. Now, could I offer metal roofs to farmers? I actually started out doing that, but absolutely I could. Same thing, but I would be taking an enormous drop in profit to do that because farmers typically know their numbers a little bit better and they're not looking for a Cadillac service, right? They're looking for the best price. All right. So again, I know my customer, I know my offer, and I'm directing it to exactly the type of people that I want to do business with over and over again. It becomes very simple. We sell the same person day in, day out. Anyone that's not that person, we say thank you, but no thank you. Okay. So reaching that level, all right, getting to that place requires you to make decisions along the way. And those decisions is who exactly are you best serving? And think about it now. Who is your best customer? Who's the one that gave you the least resistance? Right. And I always chuckle at this because you know who they are. You can think right off the top of your head, that's my A customer. All right. And then my next question is, why aren't you getting more of them? Why aren't you just focusing on getting more of them? Because if there's ones, there's thousands of them, is there not?
Can that be the next meeting?
Of course, we rave about this all the time. But again, it's really an adjustment in understanding. You do not offer services, all right? When we go in and say, I'm just a roofer, I'm just like, you're offering services. There's nothing that differentiates you, all right? There's nothing that says I'm a specialist at this. I am the best at this one thing, okay? And again, we want to attract the type of customer. And this goes for general contractors too, right? Again, I see it more and more and as often as and as frequently as ever is where the contractor doesn't know what their core offer is. They're just trying to run around and get work. They're trying to run around and throw their services around. And it really does a lot of damage in growing revenue, in growing profits, and growing a customer base that's loyal, that you can count on. All right. And it's because yeah,
Can
go
I
ahead.
ask something? Our
Sure.
core offer is we specialize in kitchens and bathrooms. But
Perfect.
when you do that, it gives a lot. There's a lot of jobs in kitchens and bathrooms.
Totally. But you can be a kitchen and bathroom expert. All right. But don't let me catch you doing remodeling.
Like the
And
sunroom we just did a while back.
and then exactly. But here's the other part. Kitchen and bathrooms is too broad, right? There's a million companies that do that. Where I would take that to the next level is I only do high scale kitchens, 100,000, 200,000 plus, or I only do mid-range kitchens. The reason for that is because those two markets are not the same. The problems are not the same. The expectations are not the same. Everything is different. And again, we're talking about the same thing. But I'm telling you, if somebody is looking for a $200,000-$300,000 kitchen with all the bells and whistles and lives in a high-end area, and you go in with that middle class, middle market approach, you're going to blow it every time. You're never going to land one of those. They're going to see through you very quickly. Just like in my business, we have to show up and present a different way because we know who we're dealing with. All right. Now, on the other hand, if somebody in the certain area codes and stuff call us, the answer is a hard no. It doesn't matter what project that we already know our odds of landing that job because it's in that middle class market just won't stand. All right. There's a ceiling to what we can charge and what is fair and what they would see as value. All right. Their problems are not the same. Their expectations are not the same. And a lot of guys get this really wrong. And it comes back down to core offer, right? Understanding that your core offer is your specific problem solved a specific way for a specific person. We don't need to make it more complicated than that. If you can't right now tell me what those things are, you don't have an offer. Therefore, you're offering your services to anybody. Okay. And that's very dangerous. Does it make sense?
No, yeah, it makes total sense. It's just like I said, we live in a border town. So if I just did high scale kitchens, there wouldn't be that many jobs.
Cool. So that's absolutely fine. But now let's say you're more middle class. Are they budget sensitive? Are they looking for like what's the quality that they're looking for? Because there's just as much opportunity in that
They
middle
want
market.
top quality at a bottom line price.
Perfect. So then what you would have to focus on is the supply on that, right? So again, are we getting the best prices on granite countertops? Can we get a volume discount? Can we be the best at giving that service? And the other best example I can give you when it comes to this, we work with a ton of bathroom companies and a ton of kitchen companies. Stop offering custom made kitchens. Start offering 3 options. You've got good, better, and best. Pick your colors, right? And your selections are, here's the 3 top selections we have, and those are to your advantage. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're running cabinets, you're going to run, hey, if you want top of the line cabinet, this is the only one that we offer, right? That's going to cut out all your variables. And you make sure those variables are in your favor. All right. What I see a lot happen is we're going to custom everything. We're going to let the customer do the shopping and everything else. By the way, you'll just burn your customer out because that's not what they really want. They want to make a decision with you and have it installed tomorrow at a convenience. Do they not?
Not necessarily, and that's our custom is in our name. It's Forge Builds Custom Remodels. But what we're doing right now is we're designing a design and selection guide to make that process so much faster so they can pick everything they not per se like the exact custom, but we know high end, low end, what they want, and
Great.
then we go through and say this is going to be more money, and then they're like, okay, let's not do that. Let's move on to this.
Great. So if you do this well enough, you could do a 1-call close on a kitchen.
Really?
Selections and everything. Yeah, absolutely. And
That's
if
our
you get
goal.
really smart, you actually move your guide, your best, good, better, best guide into your marketing. Because the first question you got to answer is, how much is this going to cost me? So if you cover good, better, best in your offer, all right. And again, it's geared for those customer types. Just take the customer you're doing business with the most, right? And you get in their head in the psychology. What was the first thing? They had to get over the price. Great. All right. But really, it's the wife making the selections. It's the wife. 80% of the decisions are made by women. All right. So once you get past the decision maker on the can we afford this budget price, all right, now we get into the selections and what people want more than ever, speed and convenience. All right. If you can give your customer the Amazon experience, and it's easy in kitchens and bathrooms, all right, by controlling the variables, not only will you get a faster sale, an easier job to produce, because again, you've cut all of your variables out, all the custom stuff, all the ordering a specialty faucet and all that, like that's all your time, right? It doesn't make a happier customer because it takes longer and there's delays and it causes cash flow problems and all of these other things that you guys continue to curse yourself with. Had you just started at the beginning, given them the Amazon experience, said, hey, here's the 3 options that you have, pick one.
That's actually a really great idea, especially for our market down here.
Right. And
Thank
they
you.
want speed and convenience more than they want options. Okay. And that's the middle class market, like all the way up to the upper end. Again, there's a good swath of people there, and you'll get known for that. If you work on your speed and the delivery, and again, you got your suppliers in your back pocket, you'll drive down your supply costs. And now we're cooking with gas. Okay. So again, we just covered this using checklists, templates, repeatable work, right? Again, you want to make your business so boring, so easy that a child can run it. All right. There's a reason I'm not at J. Carter Roofing. I'm no longer an employee there, or I no longer invest my time in there at all. It's because it's boring. Sucks. Nothing new happens. Right. It just makes me a lot of money every month. Right. But that's not fun. That's not exciting. Working with you guys is exciting. Solving your problems is exciting. All right. I knew I could not stay there and be happy at a certain point because I made my business so boring. Same people, same problems, same. Do you not think you could systemize that a lot? And which we did, right? If you've heard it once, you've heard it 100 times. And we have everything down. And I don't look for anyone to change the plan. We haven't changed things in 8, 9 years. There's no innovation, nothing new, nothing crazy. We're just operating the same business the same way. All right. And until my profits tell me otherwise, all right, I don't have a problem. All right? And you should all be working towards that goal. All right. To run a business so boring that you have to leave and go find something else to keep yourself entertained. All right. And this is the core of what this lesson is all about. The simpler you make it, the simpler that people can find you, the simpler that just taking the complexity out of what it is that you're doing, the more direct you can get. All right. You will see improvements in every square inch of your business. And before long, you'll find what I'm exactly telling you about, where they don't need you. All right. Now, some of you may not be prepared for that, but the day will come when your business no longer needs you. All right. And you need to have a plan for that too. That's a discussion for another day. But all right. If you do this right and you do what I'm saying, your business won't need you anymore. All right. For what? Okay. After all the problems have been solved, all right, they don't need you for anything. Okay. And it becomes just like that. And yes, you can do that in a contracting business. Yes, you can run a very successful business without being in the operations of it. All right. But you have to focus on the first thing that I'm telling you here today. All right. Core offers, doing what makes profit, doing the things that have the path of least resistance, the easiest place to find guys. If you can't get those things balanced, you will never have a boring business. You will always have an exciting business that will require all of you every day for the rest of the time that exists. Okay. So let's get over the exciting stuff. All right. Remember, we got to make business decisions here, not things to keep ourselves amused. And I think a lot of the attachments we get and a lot of the challenges we see come from our entrepreneurial spirit. All right. But I hate to tell you, at a certain point, someone needs to manage, and we have to apply that energy to where it matters. Right. And that's making profit. Okay. So again, we want to update all our marketing to highlight the main service. Ask happy customers for reviews and specialty. All right. Before and after photos. Okay. Now getting the team in line. All right. This is where a lot of you guys will also experience some turbulence and some problems. But my offset to this is, hey, you know what? We're going to specialize in these two things. Okay. Maybe we're not going to do. I bet you more of your guys will be relieved and say, thank you. Thank God. Right. I know mine certainly did. My core got like my project managers and stuff. Like, again, when I'm putting them in uncomfortable situations, asking them to do things we don't normally do. All right. No good comes from it. Not usually. All right. So now we can hold weekly trainings on our core service. All right. Make sure your staff are on board with this. Make sure that they know what their identity is and what this company offers. Okay. Too often we forget to internally market. For you guys that have been around for a little while and heard my rants on a weekly basis, you will know that I consider hiring, recruitment, and retaining staff the exact same thing as sales and marketing and retaining customers. They're the same thing, guys. We have to do them at the same pace, the same time. All right. Talking to your staff and having them be clear on what it is that you guys do will make a world of difference. Okay. Rewarding team members for their specialty expertise, right? We want to attract more people like them. We want to make it a great environment. If you have a great, let's say you're doing HVAC, you've got a great commercial HVAC technician. All right. You want 2 more of those. And then all you want to do is HVAC commercial service. Cool. Let's build a culture around just being the best at that. All right. And that involves marketing it to your team, having them be aware of who you are and what you guys do. All right. And my favorite of all right, we got to measure our success. Right. For those late nights when we doubt ourselves and when we think, hey, you know what, I'm crazy, or those moments where someone offers you something outside and you have to say no, the biggest test of them all, the only way you're going to get there, all right, is if you track. All right. We can't manage which we can't measure. So a great place to start, tracking your profit, your callbacks, all right, your customer reviews by service. All right. The answers are probably right in front of your face. Okay. If you're unsure if something's doing well or if you should drop something, right? Don't take my word for it. I'm just some crazy guy on the internet. Don't do that. What you do is you take and you track the profit on that service, right? You start counting how many calls backs you had, how many incidents you had, and how many upset customers you had, what your Google reviews were. All right. That's taking the facts and really adding the detail that you need. And then it becomes a very obvious decision, right? And again, I can't tell you how many times I've done this just to say I told you, right? Like it's right there in front of you. Okay. But sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need somebody to look at our watch and tell us what time it is, because our ego is getting in the way of making these decisions, right? Our false beliefs are getting in the way of making these decisions. All right. So the biggest thing in overcoming resistance with your team, all right? Again, when you're making any change in your business, any change at all, be it the smallest thing, be it the biggest thing, all right? You got to understand that nobody likes change, right? That's what I'm here for. That's my real job, is to help people make change, all right? Because everyone likes to talk about it. You guys are all here listening, all right? But nobody likes to do it. All right. And that includes your team more than anything. So understanding that your team is going to be resistant to any change that you suggest. Why? All right. Because it's change. Simple as that. Right. They may worry that they're going to lose work. Right. So again, make sure that we're marketing this. Make sure that we're explaining to them that we're putting them in a better situation. We're reducing the variables. We're making their job easier. All right. And when you explain it that way, and we're doing more of this kind of work, all right, you're going to get team buy-in. People are going to start to really appreciate it. And I can't tell you, again, in my own personal experience, guys that never said shit when we were doing it with 11 services all of a sudden thanked me repeatedly for not forcing them to do that kind of shit anymore. And like it was like, again, it was just like harmony. We got full buy-in on it after we got through the initial cut down. But again, we want to make sure that we are properly marketing this to our team. All right. So let's talk about some building habits for the long-term success. All right. Now, I promise you the first 30 days of making this decision will be tough. Okay. It will be hard. You will have lots of questions. It will be difficult, no matter what it is, even if you're cutting one service. All right. It's almost like you cut a limb off, right? You got to heal from it. And I don't know why it's so hard, but it is for a lot of guys. So I don't want to underestimate this. A lot of this is just about reviewing, all right, and using the numbers and using the data to reinforce that decision that you've made. Okay. So if it's 30 days, anybody here can do 30 days, right? If we gotta stop doing a service for 30 days, that's not a big deal. All right. Doesn't mean the orders have to stop. Maybe you were wrong about it. Maybe I was wrong about it. Okay. Let's make sure that we have a month focus. Okay. When should we start seeing the results? When should I start seeing time back? All right. A lot of times we can just have 30 days whip by, all these improvements be made, but because you didn't measure, you don't see the difference. All right. And this could be a big shift. All right. So again, you have to be measuring in the right place. You have to be looking. And for God's sakes, guys, you got to celebrate the wins with your team. Okay. Again, how many times I've got to say this, when you don't celebrate wins, when you don't take the time to appreciate your hard work and appreciate the fact that you were able to make it change, all right, what ends up happening, all right, it's almost not having any gratitude, is that we don't appreciate just how hard it is that of the things that we're doing. We don't give our team a chance to buy in. We don't give success enough of an opportunity to motivate us for the next month and the next month and the next month, right? I often share this saying, sometimes we need to slow down to speed up. Okay. We got to slow down and recognize the wins that are so important. All right. Be it small, be it big, but your team needs that. All right. They need to see your leadership. They need to see that what the decision was is successful. If you say nothing, okay, your team's not going to know. All right. They're going to still be in that state of not knowing, and you're going to lose efficiency. You're going to lose buy-in from that. Right. It just seems like you got to understand you're leading people, right? You have people that rely on you. All right. We got to celebrate these things with them. We got to make them feel a part of this. If you want culture, if you want people that think for themselves, you want people that see a future be bigger than you see it. All right. Start cultivating leaders. Start cultivating people that are motivated to work with you. Okay. And again, it's such an easy thing to implement, is just celebrating your wins, sharing them with your team. All right. If you can, make your team the hero. Okay. Make them think it was their idea the whole time. You will see an enormous shift in energy in your business. Okay. And again, you've simplified, you've got your team behind you on the decision, and watch the momentum grow. All right. Watch all the things that you are putting in place stick. All right. Nothing worse than doing all this work and then not having it work out, right? Not having it stick. And I see that a lot too. And again, it comes down to these things. It comes down to these simple but mostly forgotten things. So again, if you are struggling with one of these decisions, guys, I'm happy to have a chat with you. I'll throw my booking link. You guys would know how to get a hold of us. We'll throw it in the chat. If you wanted to have a chat, if you're going through this transition, don't do it alone. Again, even if it's an hour conversation and I'll be honest with you if I can help you or not, or maybe it's not a fit, don't feel any sort of pressure on that end. I like to have these conversations. I like to help guys work through their problems. That's enough for me. And if we can help you to get to where you want to go faster, cool. All right. But don't stay stuck in your head on these things. All right. Cool. So let's take a few minutes, guys. If you had any questions, anything that you wanted to add, I'm giving you my time. And any questions that you have, let's hear them. You can also put them in the chat if you'd like.
Is it only on this topic, or can I ask you something on another topic?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
All right. Here's the deal, Jake. We're
Mhm.
pretty good at what we do. Our customers love us, but
Okay.
we don't have that many customers. Because we don't have that many customers, I got a family, my partner's got bills. We got to at least live. So we don't have that many jobs because we aren't that well noticed. And I know we need to focus on advertising and all that, but we just don't have the budget yet. What do you recommend to get noticed when you don't have an advertising budget quite yet? We got maybe $100 a month to do some Facebook ads, or we got some door hangers maybe, but is there anything else you recommend?
Yeah, your Google local business profile would be one that you'd optimize, right? That's free. Your
We got it
social.
optimized. You can find me if you look up Forge Builds in Oregon. You'll find me. We're
Okay.
the first to pop up now.
So then the second place that I would focus is organic short form content, right? No contractors do it. 20,
What
30-second
what is that?
videos. So that's reels and like basically what people brain rot on. So your organic content, like it's one of the most underutilized tools by far and away. All right. So that's your social media channels, like shooting videos that are informational, top of funnel, right? Showing them your project, showing them the background. Like you'll create a following. And then when you do run ads, when you do have the budget to run ads, they'll perform much, much better. It's just about informing your audience, right? So you can do all the stuff that I just talked about without running any ads, right?
Okay.
You just have to get content focused, right? So again, that's a matter of telling a story, explaining a problem you solved, right? Offering value to your customer base that may be there or not there, but they're going to see that one day, right?
And you post
So
that same stuff to every one of your socials?
every one of your social channels, and do it as consistently as you possibly can. Keep it short, 15, 20 seconds. All right. And make sure that it's video at the moment. That's the stuff that's really that all the platforms are pushing for. And you can become a local expert, and the algorithm will just push business to you without any ads, right? Because they got to have people stay on the platform. Right. So if you're giving value to someone and you're explaining a problem or a situation, a before or after, and you don't make it too salesy or too markety, right? People appreciate that, right? It builds goodwill and trust.
So
So, I
just
mean, if
information, no offer in the thing.
you can always make an offer, but again, it's value first, right?
Yeah.
So letting people know that you solve the problem is not an issue, but overdoing it and making it all about you, that's the problem, right? So a lot of guys go into it with the mindset of, look at me, all right? And that is very wrong. So just think about the content you're consuming, all right? Think about what kind of value you could offer first, all right? And then put it out there. Right. That's the easiest pathway to success. And then if you get half decent at it, post it in Facebook groups. That's free. Right. Let the community know that you have a problem that you could solve. Maybe, you have a checklist for if they're thinking of a new kitchen. Just go to a local community page. Everybody's got them. Right. And offer that as value. Become the local expert. All right.
Like making a video on, or just
Sure.
explaining how we took all this cast iron in a home and transferred it to
Yeah,
updated the home.
there you go.
Okay.
The other thing too is answer people's questions with a video. So if you're on those community forums, people are asking questions all the time. Hey, do you know a roofer? Hey, do you know, like, all these questions? If you get ahead of being the expert on it, all right, you wouldn't even need ads. right? You're committing your time and you're committing video content to it,
It's
right?
like what you're doing here.
Yeah, you got
Exactly.
it. Practice what I preach,
You for reals.
right?
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for these meetings. The fact that you do this for free every Thursday is just
Yeah.
unbelievable because no other company like yours is doing something like this.
Again, I'm not a coaching company, right? So we're a consultant. We fix the problems. We actually do the work. So for me, if I were trying to sell everyone coaching here, I wouldn't do it, right? Because that's my product. I just like coaching. It gets it out of my system and then we can focus on the real problems. And if you have a real problem that you want to solve, it's much easier to get somebody else to just do it than you to try and figure it out yourself.
For sure. We'll do that
Right?
when we have a bigger budget, I promise.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Cool. Any other questions, guys?
No, today is a good thing though. I do need to delete some bullshit stuff that we take on time to time, and I think about it, and yeah, definitely
Yeah.
another good meeting.
The most powerful, most profitable word in your vocabulary is the word no. All right. Now, coming from a former recovering yes man, all right, I can tell you without a doubt in my mind, all right, the day I learned to say no and to stand on the ground of what I knew to be real, all right, everything changed. All right. The more I said no, the more money I made.
Yeah, I
Right.
need
And
to
I
say
think a
no.
lot of us struggle with that word no. We want to be everything to everyone. And ultimately we end up nothing to anybody. You know what I mean? So again, focus on the things you're good at, learn to say no to the things you're not, and life's going to get better, right? Your business is going to grow. You will feel better too. You're better positioned. And nowadays, no one has an excuse. Like you can't say yes to everything. There's too much out there. We're in too much of an abundant time to be saying yes. It's just there's so much opportunity around everybody. There's never been more opportunity than there is now. So you have to learn to say no. Right?
Yeah, I want to help people out, and that's where
Right.
it always
But
comes to bite me. We helped somebody out, and they had a leak in a PEX pipe 20 feet from where we were even working, and
right.
a year later, and now we're dinking with it because I feel bad that we
No good
did.
deed goes unpunished though, right?
That's right. That's right.
So just remember that the second you put your hand out and it's when it gets slapped. And it almost never fails, does it? Like you go out of your way to do something and then boom, you're almost punished for it almost immediately because the customer still has the same expectations.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
They
why my
expect it.
partner in the chat says
Yeah.
don't do anything for free.
There you go. There you go. Don't do anything for free for sure. But that should always be the first step, right? But then you get even more specific about that. Hey, I don't do anything for these type of clients or this type of area code or so it's just again practicing the word no. That'll keep you out of trouble and it'll keep you focused on the things that really do bring results.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate your time today and we'll see you shortly. Take care.